Good evening and welcome to the 17th episode of the Rangers Gameplan podcast where we discuss the past. Feels like a year since there was a video. Honestly, feels like there was a year since there was a game. The past week and a little bit of change that has been the New York Rangers. We have 3 games to talk about. They're 3 wins. And,
Yeah, with a random 5-day break for no reason in between.
good
But
job, NHL.
they're 12-2-1, so we're recording this right after, like immediately after the Devils game. Just to preface anything by saying that, yeah, they're really good so far this year. 12-2-1 is crazy.
Shockingly good.
Yeah, so I guess the Wild game, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was first. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to kick that off. That there's really not a whole lot to say about that game, but
They looked good. Was that Domingue in net for that game?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, right. It was either now I'm forgetting
it was
because
Domingue.
of the long break that we had. I'm like forgetting everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they pretty shockingly won that one. Louis Domingue played phenomenal, I thought.
I one of the better performances of the season for the Rangers out of a goaltender, and that's not even a knock against anyone else. That's just he played fantastic. The second line was cooking in that game. You had Trocheck, Panarin, and Laffy getting on the board. Lafreniere, by the way, who's just been
Oh yeah,
Oh.
he's all the way arrived. Every single game that line has looked ridiculous. I mean, even when Hedel was there, they've just been rolling. I mean, even it obviously it's not like they're scoring on every shift, but every single shift they do have sustained pressure, and it's really impressive at this point because I mean, obviously they're going to go somewhat cold at some point, but it just looks like the chemistry that they have is just untouchable right now. So
I'll go to that one part that you said right there, which is they're not scoring every shot. They are every time they're on the ice, it's a fire drill for the other team, and that's all you can hope for out of any line that you roll. I don't recall a time where it's in their own end when they're on the ice. It is always neutral zone, quick dump offs. They're just trying to change skaters, and then immediately Panarin or Laffy is on it and getting it into the offensive zone again. I am incredibly grateful for Mr. Peter Laviolette deciding that, hey, what if this line, that's a revelation. It's been easily the best line of the Rangers. I think you could make a case it's one of the most complete lines in the NHL right now.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Especially with the way that Lafreniere has really rolled the past week. It is as close to perfect as you're going to get on this team. I love Hedel. He looked great there. I don't know how you could even break it up when he gets back and healthy.
Yeah,
Trocheck
definitely.
looks so solid there.
Yeah, Laugh has been really impressive so far. I know, myself included, I was probably the president of the hate club for him for the entire offseason. I have to give him a tremendous amount of credit. Obviously, the team as a whole looked great in that Wild game, but I mean, Laugh every single game he's been standout, noticeable, and like I just said, I think that the Wild game, the entire team played great. I think, in Columbus, not as much, but that was the first time in his career that I felt as if Alexis Lafreniere took over the game and won it for the Rangers. Obviously, you had the 1-2-on-1 goal, and then you had the late one to tie it, and the shootout winner. And I believe we've said it many times, the shootout should not be something that decides a hockey game. But, regardless if the Rangers win or lose, I feel the way about it.
Yeah.
But just for him to have the confidence to pull off that move in the shootout,
Dude.
I think speaks wonders to how he's feeling. Because I think the past few seasons, if he were put in that same situation, he's not going to do something like that. He'll probably just try to shoot at 5-hole or something. His confidence is really glowing right now, and he's talked at length about playing with Panarin and how much that's helped his game. And I just want to say, every single night so far, Artemi Panarin has been just completely dominant. He had another, I think, it was just 2 goals. I don't know if he had an assist in this game. But I don't know his exact point total on the year now, but it's ridiculous, and he now has the longest point streak in Rangers history. So, I mean, it's just amazing to see, and we've said it a couple times. Panarin's always been this way. It's not like he's just all of a sudden putting up these crazy point totals. The difference is now that it's just consistent. In the past, it was a lot more streaky, and he would have nights where he'd be completely invisible. Now he looks like he's just rolling every single night, every single shift. And obviously when you put Laugh, paired up with him, it's going, great things are going to come of it. But like I said, I just want to give Laugh a tremendous amount of credit for, especially, I mean, he has to be seeing the criticism. I mean, he's, a young kid. He has social media. For him to play this way after basically the entire offseason of the entire fan base and really the entire NHL, getting on his case, and then to come out, and I believe it's 15 or no, like 11 or 12 points in 15 games now, somewhere around there. That's all we really need from him. Obviously, it would be fantastic if he would become, the McDavid status we thought he was going to be when we drafted him, but if he could just end up being like a 70-plus point guy, that is pretty much all we need to ask of him. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that Columbus game, I felt like he just completely took it over, especially that tying goal at the end. It was, I mean, you can't ask much more from him in that spot. So
the thing is, Panarin he has an incredible shot, but he is, for his entire career, he's preferred being a playmaker. And the problem it has felt like is they haven't really wanted to put Panarin on a line with a guy who finishes. And so with Lafreniere, he has 11 points in 15 games, but 7 of them are goals. And that's so big. You're giving Panarin that guy who's going to be in front for a pass, in front to bang in a rebound, or even in some cases just in front blocking him. And they haven't really given Panarin that the past couple seasons. I mean, last year, and again, it was nice for them, like, split second. You got to see him with Patrick Kane. But it was Kane, it was Trocheck, who doesn't really like to get dirty in front of the net. And Kakko spent a lot of time with him on the second line last year. Am I stupid?
Yeah, no, they definitely tried that experiment. Obviously, it didn't work out quite as well.
Which is weird, because Kakko now likes being in front of the net.
It is weird. Yeah, it is strange just because, I mean, everybody basically thought that Kakko would be a better fit with Panarin all this time, and it just clearly hasn't worked out that way. I mean, hey, all we need is one of them, really, to click with Panarin. I guess, but, before we really deep dive into the Devils game, I just definitely, just a couple negatives. I would say, obviously, Kakko still has not really given us too much. I don't want to get too hard on him. I mean, we're sitting here 12-2-1. I don't want to spend too much time, ragging on him and really talking about too many negatives with this team. But that is really something that we're gonna need is for him to produce. I guess, when we just talked about Patrick Kane, the Rangers are officially out on him. I don't really know how anybody thought they were truly in, considering the cap, but it's just that is completely squashed now. I guess they probably could end up trading for someone at the deadline, but we are still
Tyler Motte?
We are still ways away from that. So in the meantime, we're definitely going to need something out of him. I'm not sure when that's going to come or if it will come, but that's really the last thing that needs to happen for this team to be a true problem for the rest of the league. I guess other than that, I would say the top line in general hasn't really been too great. I will say, I mean, like Mika and Kreider together 5-on-5 has never really been something that's worked, or at least not consistently. This isn't a new thing. I know Kreider prefer playing with each other. They're basically boyfriends, so you can't really peel them off from each other. But it's just never at any point have I really felt as if they've clicked 5-on-5 probably since Pavel Buchnevich was on this team.
Yeah.
Ever since that trade went down, they've been trying to find, a right winger for that line, and it just hasn't happened yet.
Man, thank God Sammy Blais turned into an all-star for the Rangers.
Yeah, oh my God, we're 12-2-1. I'm not even going to think about the Pavel Buchnevich trade right now, just before we go down that rabbit hole. But that's those were really my only two complaints. Is obviously Kako still has not done anything, and neither have Mika and Kreider 5-on-5. Listen, if those two things start to click, I don't know how this team is going to lose really ever. I mean, or at least not consistently. They're currently winning games, and I guess my biggest takeaway from where we sit right now in this season is something we've talked about a lot, especially the past two seasons with the Rangers, is they either were firing on all cylinders or they looked completely abysmal. There was never much of an in-between. They either had their A game or they simply didn't, and they got rolled. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could probably say that's the case for the past two games, where my point is they probably didn't really have their A game, and they still found a way to win. And on top of that, they didn't get completely destroyed and luck their way into 2 points like we saw many, many times over the past two seasons. That is, I mean, it's easy to say things like that when, we were like 2-3 games in. Now, I mean, they played a good amount of, games here. They have not really looked atrocious too much this season. There's probably a couple times I could think of right off the top of my head, and a lot of it had to do with the team being tired because of travel. So all those things aside, this team, I mean, we've seen when they play dominant, and then we see games like, the Columbus and Devils game where they don't quite have that, but they still find a way to win. So,
yeah, I think about this Devils game that is just so shocking to me. There was a post, and obviously I already said this in the group chat, but I'm going to say it again. People saying, I don't feel the Devils played that bad of a game. I don't feel the Rangers played well in this game, but they did the correct things. Like, I watched their performance. There was a lot that left me lacking. But you look at the score. They did everything right. They outshot the Devils. They won the face-off battle. They only took one penalty. Granted, the power play for the Devils got a goal, but again, that power play is not of this earth, so I'm not going to ride home much about it.
Yeah.
They left a lot on the table, and they still won by 2. And it's just, if this team hadn't had a month in between games, and they would have had Adam Fox, and they would have had a Shesterkin that was healthy and hadn't, missed 2 weeks in a row due to either injury or not being there, I think they could have rolled them. I think that game very easily, and also Vanacek I know he gave up 4, made quite a few really nice saves. This very easily could have been an 8-3 game in favor of the Rangers, like, without fail. And 2 of the 3 for the Devils. I love Igor Shesterkin to death. He is one of my heroes in the terms of goaltending. Holy God, how did the first 2 goals go in? The second one was not totally on him. There was a screen and it was a power play. I'm not going to put that all on him. The Jack Hughes goal, side note.
Yeah, definitely don't want that to get past him. I guess it's a matter of, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because not only we won, but he hasn't played him forever.
Yeah.
So when you go up, on the road against a high-powered offense like that, I kind of expect him to let in a couple squeakers. It's not something he does very often, so I'm not. And I mean, the other thing too is the second goal. Listen. I'm always willing to give goalies the benefit of the doubt on power play goals if just in general, but especially if the penalty that was taken was just stupid, which it was. Because Trocheck probably still had those early game jitters, and he just saw Jack Hughes and wanted to give him a hit, and it ended up being a cross-checking penalty. That can't happen, especially when the Devils' power play is still at a ridiculous percentage right now, like you said. So it's those types of things definitely can't happen. Obviously, it's not the best goal you would like, to be scored. It was very fluky. He was also screened on it a little bit, so I'm willing to cut him some slack for all that. Yeah, it's to the point you're trying to make. I mean, the 2 of the 3 Devils goals were, I mean, they were very, very fluky, and that's how it feels like every time we play them. So like you said, if they didn't have that random weird break in between, and the team as a whole probably wasn't rusty, I do agree they probably would have steamrolled them. And I know obviously they were missing Timo Meyer and Nico Hischier tonight. I know, neither team was at full strength. But this is something that I've said many, many times, and I know we lost the playoff series to them. The Rangers, listen, they've always been better than them. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and say that the Devils aren't a competition for us, and I'm not trying to sound all cocky like that or anything. It's a matter of the Rangers have shown time and time again that they can absolutely light either one of those goalies up, and they can shut down their top guys when they truly feel like it. I mean, we did a whole episode after they got eliminated saying all those things, that they just let their foot off the gas, and they've shown that they're capable of beating this team pretty comfortably several times. So regardless if either team is at full strength or not, I don't think it matters too much, especially with how the Rangers are playing all season. I feel like just at this clip the Rangers are at, if they were healthy, I'm not impressed by the Devils this year. I'm really not. I mean, they had a good win against the Penguins, I guess, but I have said several times that I do not think the Penguins are good at hockey. So I'm not moved by it.
You mean
but
the 8-8 Pittsburgh Penguins?
Yeah, no, I don't think they're that scary. No.
Dude,
I'm just not moved by them. I think the one other thing I will say before you make your point is I'm not as scared by the Devils at this point, especially 5-on-5. Like, I think they had some good chances in this game. Obviously, it was a pretty much a close game till the end. But I just think that comes in large part to Igor being rusty, and the team hasn't played in a week. So that's all I'm chalking it up to. Anything outside of that, I really don't find anything that impressive about the Devils other than the power play. So
this game for me took a lot of the questions were kind of answered with the Hurricanes game for the Rangers. Of, you're finally playing a divisional opponent. This is the first genuine yardstick. And they squeaked that game out, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't the Rangers get outshot pretty handily? No, they got outshot by 1. That was the first game I felt Shesterkin really looked phenomenal in. This game took all the vigor out of the Devils for me. I'm not trying to be overtly cocky. Jack Hughes got on the board for him with the squeaker goal. And that was it. Like, he came back, and again, he was rusty. He'd missed some time. I get that. He might have still been dealing with an injury. Vanacek, I thought even when Vanacek played well, the team in front of him was just giving up way too much for the Rangers. The rebound, especially on the second VC goal, was just... so much juice on that rebound for him.
Yeah.
And the Devils now, they're sitting in 5th place in the Metro.
Yeah, and obviously they've had injuries, but I mean, even without those injuries, and I mean, listen, Jack Hughes was playing tonight. Yeah. Regardless if anybody else is hurt, that team runs off of him, and for them to just look that really unimpressive 5-on-5, I'm feeling comfortable about games, in the future against them. So,
like, the Rangers now, the second place team is Carolina. They're 5 points behind the Rangers, and the Rangers have 2 games on hand against them. Like, they
put themselves in a really, really good spot.
They look as impressive as any team in this sport right now, and it's not just the big guys doing it. You have this game, VC gets a pair. I thought that line looked surprisingly solid. You're still doing it without Adam Fox, and the Miller-Trouba pair continues to look great. Miller had an assist on one of the goals. Trouba murdered a man tonight.
Yeah.
Clean hit, by the way. Clean hit. Yeah. Just so we're clear here. And it's not just coming from the big guys, especially when you look at goaltending. Obviously, Shesterkin is the unquestioned starter of this team, and I'm not going to say anything of the sort. Any goaltender they've thrown out to this point of the season has looked great. Like, Quick
Yeah,
has,
I mean, even Louis Domingue, for God's sakes, like,
and it's a real case of the defense is helping the goalies, but the goalies are helping themselves. They're playing with the
yeah,
confidence that their defense is going to mop up a lot of the little things, and they're just having to focus on themselves. Domingue played a great game. Quick is playing the best hockey he's played maybe in the past half decade.
hmm
And Shesterkin, he's gonna get it going. There is not a doubt in my mind. Any player on this team in a struggle, the one I would have the least concern about is Igor Shesterkin. He's not just gonna lose any of it. He's gonna be fine long run.
yeah, we've been through that a million times with him. There are some stretches where he doesn't look phenomenal, and it's just we have questions about it, and we talk about it, and it just ends up not mattering whatsoever. Especially, I mean, we just saw like in a playoff series where he almost eliminated the Devils by himself. So it's that wasn't too long ago that he did that. I mean, especially we're talking about this game where he hasn't played in forever. He's going to get it going. And the other thing, I mean, obviously we just talked about it. They're well ahead of everyone in this division. And I mean, Mika hasn't started scoring yet. And I mean, obviously they don't have Adam Fox, which, by the way, he is currently back on the ice skating. So I'd assume he's going to come back. I think it was said that he's going to be on the next road trip or something like that. So that's huge. I mean that they're 12-2-1 without Mika really doing much of anything currently, and they weren't at full strength for the past little while, and I mean they still aren't. So I just don't see how they can really truly fall off too hard from this point. I mean, especially when we're talking about Mika, that I'm not in the slightest concerned about him. At some point, he's gonna find a goal, and then he's just not gonna stop.
When
So I mean,
Philadelphia. That's all that matters.
I mean, he does this every year where he starts off slow or something like that, and then he just does not stop. I mean, he is a streaky player. That's probably my biggest complaint with him. But I mean, for them to be at this point in the season, this well ahead of everyone, and the other thing, let me pull it up again because I just saw it. The Rangers have such a significant goal differential in comparison to everyone else in the division. I mean, the Rangers, I just pulled it up, so they are plus 18. The rest of the division is Washington in second place, -1. Carolina third place, +2. Philly +5. The Devils -3. Islanders -12. Penguins +12. Columbus -16.
Wait,
so they're well above everyone.
Pardon, did you just say that Washington is in second place?
Yeah, somehow. So I don't know. This now that I'm looking at this, like this division is a bit of a mess. Like I'm not trying to sit here and act like we're super cocky and none of these teams are gonna get it going at any point. But like, dude, the Canes are bad. The Devils are pretty bad so far. Like Washington is in second place right now simply because they've beat like the Devils twice and I believe the Canes at least once. So it's like they're in second place, but that's just because of what's supposed to be two of the top three in this division just can't beat them. So,
oh my god.
Yeah, but I mean, especially looking at that, like are we scared of Washington overtaking the Rangers? No, I'm not. Not at all. And I mean, Carolina too, they haven't looked great as a whole, and I believe Freddie Anderson is going to miss quite a bit of time. So I don't know what they're going to do. Respect to Antti Ranta, who I believe is still there, right?
Yeah,
I don't think so he's serviceable, but I think they're just going to keep rotating goalies the whole year, and I don't see how they can really put much together with Antti Ranta and just a carousel of AHL goalies. So
remember like 2 years ago, I forget who it was, the goalie they traded to Detroit for nothing?
Yeah.
That was a great move, guys. Excellent job.
Oh, yeah. They have quite a list of things that, but this is so off track. But I mean, the Rangers they're 12-2-1. We can have a little bit of fun here.
Yep.
Why do the Hurricanes keep wearing the Whalers uniforms? Why do they keep doing that? It does not make any sense at all.
Can you
That's
imagine
literally
having the
stolen
gall to
valor.
do that? That is
It's like
incredible.
it's just insane. It's like, okay, I mean, this is obviously a hockey podcast. The Oakland Athletics are moving to Vegas.
Yep.
Like that would be as if like when all that gets settled out, like when the Vegas team, if they just decide to wear the Athletics uniforms, we're gonna be like, huh? That doesn't make it. That does not make any sense. That's exactly what's happening here. Like you had like fans who truly cared about the Hartford Whalers at one point, and they're just seeing you wear the uniforms just for fun. It's like it doesn't make any sense. Like they have to stop doing that.
It's so cruel. It feel because like when I first saw it, I was like, oh cool, the Whalers jerseys, they're coming back. And then I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's like there's fans that like loved that team, and it was just ripped away from them. And then you have a team like basically no, I mean, they're not making fun of it, so let me walk that back. But it's just like
It feels
it's stolen
wrong.
valor. It's stolen valor. That's what it is. Like you guys cannot be doing that.
This is even further off pace. Did you hear the story? This is way back that it was reported, but there was a dude who like led the fan club for the Atlanta Thrashers. Like he ran their fan newsletter and organized that one section that would travel to every road game for the Thrashers. And he grew up a Whalers fan.
I did not know that. That's crazy.
That's a real thing that this poor bastard went through.
Oh my god. Yeah, I doubt he still watches the sport because like to dedicate yourself that much and just get both of your teams ripped away from you, I'm sure that didn't settle out too well. Yeah, so I guess to get back on track before we really get out of hand.
One last thing.
The
Islanders being 6-6-5 is so Islanders it hurts. That just feels so
I mean, here's the
right
thing, like
soul.
they just continue to not improve the team and expect things to change. Like that's all I can really say. They keep having this. I mean, they have Bo Horvat now
I mean, Bo
on a
Horvat
huge.
wasn't literally God.
Like I guess that moves the needle maybe a little bit, but like, dude, it's Sorokin is really. I mean, he hasn't been that good this year, and I think without that, they don't have like a just easy games anymore, and I don't really see them getting back on track at any point, only because if they were going to, they would have done it some point in the past like 4 seasons because they've had the same exact team. Like it's just I don't know why they keep doing this. Like Lou Lamoriello is just he just refuses to change his ways. They keep sending the same thing out there every single year. It's just like a team that like has some talent, I guess, but like Barzell, I think he's definitely hit his ceiling at this point.
Yeah.
I would say. I mean, but by the way, there's still Islanders fans that think he's better than Zibanejad, which is just we're not even gonna put too much thought into that. It's not even close. I think the only way that they can transcend into a contender is if Barzell becomes anything more than he is right now, and if they. The other thing, like I said, if they were to change the team, maybe, but they don't. This has been the same thing over and over and over.
Eventually, if you keep throwing that, like, tennis ball at a brick wall, it's gonna break.
Yeah, and with the Sharks too, like I believe Logan Couture is going to be moved at the deadline, and I saw that and I was like, oh, he's such an Islander. That is such a New York Islander. Like somebody who doesn't really have like game-changing talent. They're gonna be pretty responsible on their own end, but they're not that good. That is a New York Islander right there. He will be a New York Islander. They don't need it. They do not need. I don't even know how old he is. He's definitely not young. He definitely
30,
isn't.
He's definitely an Islander.
Like that is just I don't know. They're gonna get him and expect to win the Stanley Cup, and it's gonna be so hilarious. But I guess before we go too deep on anything else, like I said, the Devils are I wouldn't say they're in trouble necessarily. Obviously, I still expect them to make the playoffs, but I think, I mean, at this point, they are probably more power play merchants than we've been for the
Yeah.
past few seasons. I'm not impressed by them 5-on-5 at all, and I think Dawson Mercer has fell off a huge cliff. Um, not that he was like a 90-point guy last year or anything, but he had stretches where he would basically take over games and have a couple goals a night and win it for them. He hasn't done much of anything so far. And obviously it's one of those things where like Nico Hischier coming back, he's obviously a very good player, but the offensive upside just isn't there. So when we're talking about their issues and not being able to score 5-on-5, he doesn't change that. And also, I think Dougie Hamilton is really struggling this year. I think the only Devils game that I watched was the Winnipeg game, just because there was nothing going on in my life that night, and I was like, let's just see how the Devils are doing. Dougie Hamilton looked like he was just like playing a different sport. Like there was a couple goals given up where he looked like he could not care less about being there, and he was basically responsible for a couple goals there. And tonight, I didn't even notice him on the ice, like not in a good way. I know that's usually a good thing for defensemen, but I mean there was shifts where the Rangers were absolutely rolling, and I was just it would get cleared out or something like that. And Dougie Hamilton would get off the ice for a change, and I was like, oh, he was on the ice? Like, he didn't make a single play to break anything up. I'm not trying to sit here and rag on the Devils too much. Obviously, we've only won one game since being eliminated by them. But I just think, I mean, if if Gallant was the coach tonight, the Rangers lose by a lot.
Oh,
I mean, it's that simple. It just makes me even more angry that this team being coached easily wins that playoff series. But obviously we'll well beyond that point at this point.
Yep.
And we just have to deal with it. But it's like I said, earlier, I've always felt the Rangers are just better than them. Obviously, Jack Hughes is a phenomenal player. I mean, he's probably top 5 in forwards in the league.
Yeah,
but everything else is just not that impressive, and especially they remind me a little bit of how we were, right? Because I mean, not that they made a deep playoff run. I mean, they won a round and got steamrolled out of the second. But when we made it to the conference finals without really being all that sound as a team, we expected a little bit too much. And it not that we were bad last season, but it definitely wasn't great either. I think that's kind of what you're seeing with them a little bit. After a while, the magic after a while, the magic just runs out, and not that they're too deep in a hole right now. I mean, they're still I think the record's 8-7-1 or something like that. So it's not like the end of the world. But I mean, it's just like I said, it kind of reminds me of how we were, where we get back to the playoffs for the first time in years. We win a little bit and kind of expect just a huge jump from that point. And if you're not fundamentally sound as a team, it's just not going to happen. So
yeah, I mean, and they're in 5th place. They're 8-7-1. You are correct. Washington is not a playoff team. I don't understand how they are currently in 2nd place. Philadelphia is a nightmare. And it is only a matter of time before John Tortorella starts executing men. It's not... They're getting 3rd at worst.
Yeah, so for sure.
I can definitely throw jokes at... They're still a solid team. I still have a lot of... I'm still relatively high on Vitek Vanacek. I think he's a solid goaltender. They're gonna be okay, but this was a chance for them to kind of come out and say, we're still the team that eliminated you last year. We're not in first. We're still ways behind you, but we're still a threat to you, and they just didn't.
Yeah, especially like we said before, the 2 of their goals were, I mean, in 2 weeks. Yeah, in like I said, in 2 weeks from now, when Igor's fully warmed up, he doesn't let those in. No. So
Let's talk about the first goal, Evan. So I don't know if you listened to the broadcast,
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm ready to talk about this. Yeah,
Did you,
I'm just. What do you want to say first? Because
I don't know if you noticed this, but the whistle blew.
it did. Yes, the
And
whistle did blow.
And the puck was not in the net.
Oh no, it wasn't. No, no, it wasn't. No.
So one might ask the question: how is that a goal?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Man, I was like, because here's the thing, I don't want to sit here and act like Igor should be letting that go through him because
No,
it shouldn't.
he absolutely should
But-
not.
But so let's rewind a little bit. So Will Cooley should have had a goal in the Columbus game.
But what happened, Evan?
So basically, what happened was the puck went in the net, and then 5 seconds later, the whistle blows, and it was called no goal because the ref said they had intention to blow the whistle. Which, by the way, let's just talk about this, right? Because okay, it doesn't matter because the puck went in the net, like from the original shot. It's one of those things if it was in, like under Merzlikins and there was a bunch of people like jabbing at the puck and it eventually goes in. The original shot, the hockey puck crossed the goal line and it did not count because there was intent to blow the whistle. So now you go to this game where the whistle was actually blown. We don't have to talk about intent to blow the whistle anymore because you heard it. It was blown before the puck went in the net, and it's a good goal. So let me just say, like, I've been watching this sport and playing this sport my entire life. My whole life, I've watched damn near every single Rangers game that they have played since I was old enough to actually understand what's happening. And I just don't know, like, I don't know what the rules are in the NHL. It's like every time they just make things up. Like, none of these rules are just black and white. Everything is subjective, and it's not consistent. Like, nobody knows what goalie interference is. Nobody knows what a kicking motion is. Nobody knows what intent to blow the whistle is. Like, I'm so... It feels like every month there's a Rangers game that's played where just something happens where I'm just like, oh, that is not how that's been called for my entire goddamn life. That's interesting. So, I don't know what to say. Like I said, it's oh man, Igor should not be letting that through.
No.
But the whistle was blown, which usually indicates that the play is dead. Usually, right? That's what I thought. I'm not sure anymore at this point. But
Maybe,
I don't know.
maybe their intent was to not blow the whistle.
Maybe, yeah, that would be interesting. Oh, as I was blowing the whistle, I saw the puck and I was like, oh no, let's just take that back. I didn't know they can do that anymore. But also, we absolutely have to talk about the hit on Ryan Lindgren.
Yes.
In back-to-back games, by the way. And this is where I'm going to get serious for a second. There's been so many times where Ryan Lindgren has taken a hit to the head or something blatantly dangerous, and it has not been called for a penalty. Let me just say the reason that he was questionable for this game in the first place is because he took a dirty elbow to the head against Columbus, and he had to be taken out of the game, and he didn't start skating until, I believe, Wednesday or Thursday. That's the reason he was questionable for this game, and it happens again, and they originally call it a 5-minute major, and they review it. Now, typically... Now, first of all, that is a blatant headshot. I mean, he leaped into a elbow to the head. I believe it was Michael McLeod on the Devils. I don't know who it was that hit him really off the top of my head. But that was as blatant of a headshot as it possibly gets. And like I said, it was originally called a 5-minute major. They review it, and they come to the conclusion that it's no penalty at all. Listen, I would have complained about it, but I would have been fine if you just called it 2 minutes. The fact that you originally called it a 5-minute major and rewatched the hit and say it's not a penalty whatsoever is ridiculous. And like I said, I want to get serious for a second because it's a matter of Lindgren has taken hits like that so many times in his career. I'm pretty sure it's got to be something. He's obviously a very, very physical player. I mean, he hits someone on damn near every single shift he's had for his whole career. I think other teams, when they see him playing like that, they want to take a shot back at him, and sometimes it ends up being something pretty dirty. But how many times has he taken a hit like that, and we lose him for a few games, and the hit wasn't penalized or anything like that? Like, I'm tired of it at this point, because at a certain point with this league, you have to start protecting your players, and it just frustrates me because, like I said, the whole reason that he was questionable for this game is because he just took a hit to the head in the last game. And a week later, the same thing happens, and I'm so frustrated that it's not a penalty whatsoever.
I don't understand how you can physically look at it and not say it's 2 minutes. 5-minute major or 2 minute, that's fine. You know, all right, whatever. 2 minute, that I disagree, but you know what? Chill. It's going beyond. I don't care about the power play. You have legitimately integral players to a team. Ryan Lindgren, I love Truba to death. I love Miller. I love Fox. Lindgren runs that defense. I don't know what it is. I don't know what magic picks he does. He snorts before a game. He is the hero of the Rangers defense. It is an integral player. I'm not saying that if it's a fourth liner that you should just be able to execute them at center ice, but this is a actual player, and a player who's playing 20 minutes, who when you look at the final time on ice for the season is going to be up in the top 5, if he possibly could be, and it's just player safety at this point. It is maddening. And it's for a fan base who every time we play someone else and Trouba lays a clean hit.
Oh, could you imagine if Trouba did that same thing? Oh my goodness.
No, reverse it. If goddamn Dougie Hamilton, in whatever last game it was that they played, takes a headshot and then gets concussed and comes into this game questionable, and then anyone even slightly tapped him into the boards, they'd be crucified. Like the judge, jury, and executioner that is Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it would be livid. Trouba was. He laid a clean hit, and I'm sure that there are people on Twitter that are calling for his dismemberment because Jacob Trouba cannot breathe without having to address it. I was genuinely amazed he didn't have to get into a fight after that. Like, I was shocked.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's really soft from the Devils, by the way. I will just say that because and that's the other thing. Is like, if that was Jack Hughes, they would have all jumped off the bench.
Oh my god.
So I think that's ridiculous as a team. I believe it was Noshek or something. Yeah. Like, for that to not be one of the integral pieces of your team and just let it slide, I think is very, very disappointing for him because it's like what. By the way, it's still a clean hit. But, I mean, still, and by the way, it's like, I'm tired of people. I'm not trying to sound like a boomer who basically wants hockey to be boxing again. But, I mean, it's something you learn very, very early on. You have to keep your head up. Trouba did not leave his feet to hit someone in the head. When you have your head down with the puck, you're going to get hit. It's hockey. That's what happens. I'm tired of people saying that it shouldn't be that way because it's been that way since the existence of the sport. He does that all the time, and there's a reason it wasn't a penalty. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. But back to the Lindgren thing, I'm just like you said. When a player shows up on the injury report for a game, especially for anything to do with a hit to the head or something like that, for the next game, the refs usually take a look at that and monitor it, and if somebody were to touch them or do anything, it's a penalty. I just don't know why it's not the case this time. And like I said, it's just so frustrating, especially tonight from that exact hit where I mean, like I said, it doesn't get any clearer of a headshot than that. He gets up bleeding, and that whole time they're wiping blood from his mouth. They just decide that it's not a penalty. It does not make any sense to me. And it's just I mean, obviously we're without Adam Fox right now. We can't really afford to lose him at the moment. Obviously Fox is close to returning right now, but that's besides the point. Like, we're already down a key member of this team, and I mean, Lindgren takes a blatant headshot, and they just decide that it's fine. It's just mind blowing to me. And at that point, it's like, okay, so now you have a game between two rivals who just played a playoff series and don't like each other, and you're just telling them that laying hits like that is going to be perfectly fine. That is dangerous. Obviously, nothing happened after that. But as a officiating group, you have to take those things into account. Like, if you're gonna let that slide with two teams that don't like each other, that could end very, very poorly.
I am amazed it didn't. And, like, because there are people on both sides after that. It could have been very easily, it could have been a guy like Truba. It very easily could have been a Kreider. It very easily could have been Palat or McLeod or anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like Brendan Smith. Brendan Smith on the Devils, by the way. I'm still not... That's a thing.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird, yeah.
Watching him grab Will Cooley was a very surreal experience, but that's... This could have gotten so out of hand after the Lindgren thing. And it is a miracle it didn't. But it's just... This is an unserious league when it comes to player safety. And it's getting to the point... It's unwatchable at points like that. It's just... I need to know that as a sport, you care at least a little bit about your players. And when you have a moment like that where you don't even give him 2 minutes.
Yeah, NHL player safety is just so far gone from what they're supposed to be. It's insane.
Like, might we refer years ago? This is, my God, that's going on 4 years now, or 4 seasons ago. The Tom Wilson incident. Like, we just don't care as a sport. I mean, we care, but they don't.
Yeah.
That.
I don't know. Like I said, it's just so frustrating because this is not the first time that's happened to him specifically, and I know he's a warrior. He's very, very tough, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it's like to see someone. It's not like he completely left his feet or anything, but he went up to hit someone in the head. That is like in the rule book. That is what entails a 5-minute major in a game misconduct. That's just mind-blowing to me that they rewatched it, saw that, and decided it's no penalty whatsoever. Because at that point, it's like you're just making these rules up as you go. So, I mean, it's just, it is what it is. Like I said, thankfully, nothing terrible happened after that. But it's just, when you don't call something like that in a game, really in any game, but particularly in a heated matchup where these teams don't like each other, and it is a long historical rivalry, they very easily could have kept taking shots at each other. Dude, so I don't know what to say. Like,
I was terrified watching the last minute. Like, after Wheeler scored, and I realized, I'm like, okay, the game is over. Yeah. I was just waiting for it to happen. I was waiting for the hit, or after the game had officially ended, just for the dog pile in a corner. I am incredibly grateful that it didn't, but you are not policing your own goddamn game. And you are begging for this to happen.
Yeah, it's, I mean, and especially, like, you already know that's not going to be reviewed by the league.
No.
Anything of the sort. It's just, how many times is it going to happen? Especially, I feel bad for Lindgren, too, because it seems like every game he plays, he just gets... just basically, it feels like the other, any team that he plays is taking just shots at him the whole time. That's why he's injured a lot. Like, I mean, forget his play style and blocking shots and all that good stuff. Like, you can only take so many hits like that before you say, hey, I kind of need to sit for a little while. Like, that's why it's frustrating, because every time he's out, it always comes back to a hit like that.
I feel bad that Ryan Lindgren is just that guy that every other team, when they play against, becomes the older brother. over at a friend's house who's like, "Hey, I watched this WWE move on YouTube. I want to try it
Yeah.
out." And Lingren is
Yeah.
without fail the test subject.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, oh man, I'm sure that's not going to be the last time we complain about something like that with him specifically. But it's just, I mean, it's definitely very frustrating because it's like I'm already worried going into this game that he doesn't re-aggravate something or something doesn't turn up again, and then something like that happens and they just decide to not call anything for it. I'm like, dude, I just it truly doesn't get worse than that. And by the way, I mean, the past two games I felt like the refs were against the Rangers a little bit. I know that's very, very biased to say. Maybe not as much in this game. Columbus definitely, because I remember they definitely let a couple calls go, and on top of that there was just a goal that was waved off for no reason, which we talked about. But it's just thankfully they've won despite all those things. But it is definitely frustrating. This is so far one of the worst officiating seasons I've seen. It's not off to a good start. So
I never want to hear, "Oh, the Rangers get benefit. They get the benefit of the call over there in New York." I never want to hear it again.
yeah,
Because of
I
these
know
two games.
sometimes we do, but it's just there's so many situations like this where I just am mind blown
evens out.
that they just that things happen. But
Oh dear God.
yeah, so
What's the matter, man?
I
Anyway.
guess yeah, like I said, it's I'm definitely impressed that they are, this far ahead of everyone in the standings, and they've just, I mean, I believe they're 9-0-1 in their last 10, so they've, put themselves in a really, really nice position the rest of the way. Obviously, winning tonight was huge, especially on the road against a team that just eliminated you. Without Adam Fox, and we haven't mentioned Philip Hedl yet. Obviously, he is still hurt. It doesn't seem like he's going to be back for a little while. And from what I'm hearing, it's definitely more so a concern of him rather than anything hockey related. I mean, he's had quite a few concussions so far
Yeah.
in his career. So that's, all the hockey stuff aside, you have to pray for him a little bit. That is definitely very, very scary. He's up to 4 that we know of. Okay, so it's one of those things where there's only been 4 that have been fully diagnosed and everything. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some that either he didn't know about or some that he pushed through. That stuff is terrifying just as a human being, because you can only take so many of those before it starts to, give you significant issues. So, fingers crossed for him. However much time he needs, he's welcome to take. They're in a very, very good spot as a team. Even if they weren't, he's got to get completely 100% right before anything. So, I mean, it sucks to lose him. I was definitely expecting really, really big things out of him this season. And we do expect him to be back. It's just, I mean, he hasn't even started skating yet, so it seems like it might take a little while. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that's just scary for him, certainly, because 4 that we know of, there's probably at least a couple more that were just either swept under the rug or he just didn't quite know about or something. Like I said, just however much time he needs, he's welcome to take it. And that's it. But yeah, I mean, that's something that I definitely wanted to bring up, because it's, I mean, forget anything that we could possibly talk about with the lineup or the team or anything. I mean, even if it was 2 or something, it's definitely concerning at that point. So
Yeah, the fact that the progress just hasn't really come. You thought in the moment this doesn't look bad, and the fact that it hasn't really progressed is very troubling. And
yeah,
I think it's a great thing, not only for Hedel himself, but for the team as well, that they are continuing to do well, and that his line is continuing to do well without him, in the sense of he's not having to, just looking in the mind of himself, he's not having to think the team is, I've gone and then all of a sudden the Magic's gone. He can take his time, the team can take their time. They don't have to rush a damn thing. And if it takes, I don't want it to take that long, because I like Philip Hedel an awful lot, and I definitely think this team is better with him in the lineup than without him. But if he has to wait till mid-December to get back and healthy, or even further than that, he can take his time, and there's not going to be that pressure on him or anyone around the team of let's get him back in the lineup a game early and then end up losing him for God knows how long. Which you hope also is not the case with Ryan Langrid, because, you know.
Yeah, because the NHL just does not know how to protect their players. Yeah, and by the way, it's like one of those things where, I mean, Heedle's out with a concussion. If he comes back, somebody does something to him. Who knows if they even call it or if anything happens. So, yeah, I mean,
absolute
definitely
game where Filipino comes back, gets elbowed in the face, and then they call him for 2 minutes.
Yeah, for embellishment or something. Oh, I don't even want to have that conversation if that were to happen. Yeah,
it's gonna hit like crack, and you know it.
Yeah, so they're 12-2-1, which is good. Obviously, regardless of how the team is doing, that head injuries are nothing to joke about or to take lightly. So however long he needs, he's welcome to take it. I guess, like I said, it's huge for them to. There's another measuring stick game. That's something that we talked about quite a bit. Like, I mean, they beat Carolina with obviously Fox and Igor. Or no, well, I guess Igor did get hurt in that game, but he finished through it, and then that's one where Heedle hurt himself as well with the concussion. They won that one against the Canes, and then now tonight, still without Adam Fox or Heedle, they didn't play the best necessarily, but a lot of it is because of rust and everything. Both of the teams that you're expecting to contend with, later in the season, you haven't really had an issue with. So I'm unbelievably impressed. I guess upcoming, I don't think the schedule is all that scary. I guess I'll pull it up real quick. I know they have the Stars on Monday.
Yeah, then you have 2 incredibly important divisional games against Pittsburgh and Philly.
Oh, we get to play the Penguins. I'm excited. Oh man, I'm gonna be up and ready for that game. Oh man, I cannot wait to play the Pittsburgh Penguins. I do not like them.
Team. The Pittsburgh Penguins.
I do not like them at all. So here's the thing. You are well aware of this, and everybody that we're friends with is well aware of this. I despise the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't know the extent that I've said it on here, but I just want to get it out in the open. That is like my most hated team in all of sports. So I would like to beat them by a lot. so the night that we beat them 6-0, I was at the game and I lost my voice, and that's all that you really need to know. I'm excited for Wednesday. Yeah, so I'm not scared about them. I've said it many times. I don't think they're good. So the Stars, I do like them. That's a team that I've been high on in the West for some time. Ottinger is somebody that I like a lot. They do have a lot of talent over there. I guess. Let me just see. So that's away.
Yeah.
I guess that hurts a little bit. I'd say at home they could probably beat them. Not that I think they'll lose to them necessarily, but that's one that you could circle as if it's a loss. I am kind of not that I'm expecting it, but I'm okay with it. And then Penguins, yeah, not good. They should win that. They're not good at hockey, so I'd be excited if Tristan Jarry plays in that game as well. We'll see. Yeah. So now that I'm looking at this, so you're telling me we have 5 days off, then a road game against the Devils, and then 1, 2, 3 road games, included with a back-to-back on Friday and Saturday.
With travel.
Yeah, so you're telling me that one of either the Flyers or the Bruins game couldn't be played last week on a Wednesday or something? Because here's the thing, too. I know that every team has like a designated bye week. This wasn't that. So I don't know what happened. No, I mean, it ended up being kind of a good thing because it let us get a little bit healthier, but I just don't understand this. Like, why? Yeah, I don't know why we're just back on another road trip. That does not make any sense to me at all.
Why not?
But they play a lot this upcoming month, the rest of this month and December. So they have, yeah, so I guess Stars, I'm okay with that being a loss if it is. Penguins, I will. If they lose that game, I will. Oh man. So yeah, don't lose to the Penguins for my sake, please. Flyers, I also don't like very much, but they haven't been good for some time, so that has yet to be rekindled unless they just somehow keep going on the trajectory that they're on, which isn't great, but they don't seem terrible this year, which is weird because they are terrible.
Yeah.
And the Bruins, who just somehow just don't lose.
How are they still like this?
Like I don't know. Let's see. What is their record?
Dude, Linus Ullmark is playing great, and then you have Jeremy Swayman on the bench, who is basically God.
Yeah.
Have you seen Jeremy Swayman's numbers to this point?
I have. Yeah, they're just mind-boggling. They're 13-1-2 somehow. I don't know how.
You lost 2 Hall of Famers in 1 year.
Yeah, when was the last time they were even, like, bad as a team? I mean, credit to them at this point. Like, just no matter what happens to them, they just still find a way to be good. They can't really win the whole thing, as we've seen last year, but they're just still an elite team every year, so...
When was the last time they were just even mid?
This is something else. I can't remember the last time the Rangers have played Boston in the playoffs. I think it was like Kreider's rookie year or somewhere right around there. I would not mind seeing that.
That'd be fun.
I'd be terrified, but I would not mind seeing that. Yeah, I think that would be like a great conference finals. Obviously we're so far away from that, and we just got eliminated in the first round this past year, so I'm not trying to sit here and shoot for the stars too early, but I mean, oh man, that would be something that would get me to fully just fill with rage against Brad Marchand more than I already do, and it's not like they really have played meaningful games against them, but that would be something that I'd look forward to.
Obviously, it's far off in the distance, but to think about the playoffs for a brief second, the Rangers would take on Tampa in the opening round if it were to start right now, which is...
Yeah, that's... I mean, we haven't been able to beat them in the playoffs for some time, so it's scary just because of that, but I'm also not moved by the Lightning as much anymore, so... I guess here's the thing, and we're still early on in the season, and this is pretty much just about going to wrap it up for me, but I think, like, at this point, I mean, other than the Bruins, I'm not scared of really anybody. I'm not trying to sound too cocky when I say that, but, I mean, specifically with this division, I mean, like, Carolina and the Devils haven't looked great, and other than that, like, the whole East, it's just been the Bruins and us. So, yeah, I mean, if this continues, it's like, I mean, we thought it was wide open last year. This year is definitely looking way more that's the case, just based on the fact that I'm not scared of this division, which is huge now. And I guess I do have to give a lot of credit to the entire team, but the coaching staff, they are still ridiculously good at faceoffs, and I think, I mean, at this point, to be, you know, what, 12-2-1 and not even be fully acclimated to a system. I mean, we're not even in December yet. I think is it just says wonders to the coaching staff, and it also just says like how much this team was not coached last year or the season before. We'll just keep talking about that all year. But I just want to give credit to all of them because, I mean, it's not like we've had a super easy schedule either, and we've had our fair share of injuries that we're dealing with, and to not really have everything clicking yet necessarily and be this comfortable to start a season is, I think, huge. I mean, even if they do have a little bit of a losing skid at some point, it's not going to knock them off the tracks at all. So
they look as good as I have ever had the pleasure to watch them look. And with talking about the division and talking about the conference as a whole, the Bruins are great. they're not going to go anywhere. Clearly, they're not going to go anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
You experience the worst playoff heartbreak maybe of the past decade for your team, which says something because you lost a Game 7 in the playoffs, or in the Stanley Cup Final, and that still might have topped it. As you watch the freaking hero of your franchise go off in crippling defeat, you lose your best 2 centers, one of whom is just one of the best centers of all time.
Yeah.
And you're better the next year. They're not going anywhere. Yeah. But outside of them, the Devils, Hurricane don't really scare me all that much, and that's definitely who I thought was 1-2. I came into the season thinking the Rangers were going to finish 3rd in the Metro. And now you're 15 games in for the Rangers. I think that legitimately, depending on how that Boston game goes, you have to start changing your mindset to not even just are you going to win the Metro, but can you take the 1 seed? And because outside of Boston, you got Tampa, Florida, or not Tampa, Toronto and Florida, who look solid in the Atlantic. Tampa just doesn't scare me anymore, which is a weird thing.
I don't think they really scare anybody, but
Detroit has upside. I think they could be fun, but if they make the playoffs, they're just going to go through the first year making the playoffs experience, which is have fun, get your ass kicked, and then come back the next year. And outside of them, like looking on in the wild card race, you have the Devils, Islanders, and Ottawa, and none of those teams in a playoff series right now are really making me stumble that much. I cannot believe how different the yardstick and the goalpost has gotten for the Rangers just in 15 games. And it is just a testament. You lost talent from last year. You downgraded as a team from last year. And you've gotten this much better just from actually having a coach.
And especially, like I said, to be at this point, in the standings, and the main thing for me is just you haven't gotten much out of Mika Zibanejad yet, and he's going to light it up at some point. So this could end up being really, really great for the Rangers, especially when we're talking about later in the year and potentially having home ice and everything like that. Like, they have really, really, really set themselves up. And I believe, before, on one of it was either one of the early episodes in the season or the preview we did before the season started. Like, the reason the Rangers didn't win the Metro last year is because they won like 2 games in December.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have like a standout month outside of that. Like, they kind of just cruised through. They didn't have too many big winning streaks or big point streaks or anything. Obviously, it's still early and anything could happen, but I mean, just you've set yourselves up to basically lock in the first place in the Metro.
You set yourself so far behind the 8-ball last year. With the first 20 games until Trouba basically just had it up to, I was about to say up to here and then do the hand gesture, but there is no face cam, so I'm just looking like an idiot as I sit here alone. Until he literally boiled over and just chucked his helmet like a missile at the bench. And then at that point, obviously it wasn't too late in the season. You still had 60 games left. But it was such a deep hill you had to climb out of. And the Hurricanes and Devils, they started strong. They didn't particularly finish great. They finished well. But it's just the first little bit is what's so important. Because the highs, the lows, everything is going to even out by January. But by just going on such a tear to begin it, and you 9-0-1 over the last 10, which doesn't feel real, by the way. I don't understand how that is a real statistic for this team. You have just you're in such a great spot. And by God, it's not going to be long before we start hearing about the Jack Adams conversation for Peter Laviolette. And you mentioned face-off. They've won, I think I looked it up and it said 54. Trocheck's at 68%, by the way.
Yeah. I
Which
mean,
is
he's always been great at faceoffs, but like the Rangers have not been anywhere close to that percentage for what feels like my whole life. So,
they just. I am
yeah.
beside myself, and I'm out of different ways, at least this week, to say how stunning they look as a team, and how it's more than that. It's how complete they are from top to bottom.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You get a multi-goal performance in a incredibly important division round game out of a fourth line grinder in Jimmy V.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to know. Side note,
Yeah,
we didn't say anything for him. Just Jimmy VC, ladies and gentlemen. What
yeah,
a
it's
guy.
just
What a
he
fella.
is probably the best like value contract in the league. He has these games every once in a while, and everything outside of that is just really good defensive play from him. So credit to him for being a key contributor to this team. When they first signed him, I was like, oh, like what? We just got Jimmy VZ back. He's been really, really, really good. So
Yep. One of the best 5-on-5 performers last year in the playoffs and the regular season, which is not a fun statistic, but a true one. Anyway.
yeah, yeah. So,
So I assume we'll meet back probably after the Black Friday game and before the Boston game, or potentially after the Boston game. That would probably be an important one to see how that plays out for him. But
we'll figure it out. Yeah. Weird schedule, so we kind of have to work
Good job,
around
NHL.
everything.
Thank you for that. But as for right now, I think I've certainly said my piece. I don't know how you're feeling.
Yep, I'm all set. Other than just beat the goddamn Penguins, please.
By 8, preferably.
By a lot, yeah. By a lot would be fun.
Can't wait for.
Oh, and it's in Pittsburgh too, so we have to listen to that horn that they do. The Let's Go Pens horn. Oh my God! Please win. Please, 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 please win. Please win the game. Please win the game. Please win the game.
As Evan has the mental breakdown, thank you all so very much for watching the 17th episode of the Rangers Gameplan podcast. Until next week, thank you all for sticking around and watching it. Hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day, and as always, go Rangers.
Yep, go Rangers.